distinguished ladies and gentlemen, learned colleagues, peace lovers, conflict resolution experts, and all of our officers and men that are engaged in peace operation all over the world, you are welcome. And I want to send my sincere apology for not being physically present in this seminar due to logistic issues, but I want to connect visually to show my perspective and deliver this paper today, being a day set aside by United Nations to enable us to commemorate World Peacekeeping Day. Because we have officers, men and women deployed in different parts of the world trying to ensure that we have a world full of peace. It was in 1945, immediately the United Nations came into being, that the issue of international peace and security becomes prominent and eminent. And for us to ensure that we achieve whatever we desire in this season, there is a need for us to have a world that is secured, a world that we can actually guarantee peace. So for me to make this presentation today, I will deliver a paper which I titled Peacekeeping in a Changing World, the Perspective of Law, Human Security, and the Future of Global Peace Operation. Today, we join the international community in commemorating World Peacekeeping Day, a day set aside by the United Nations to remember and honor the sacrifices, the courage and contribution of our peacekeepers across the world. Peacekeeping has evolved from traditional military perspective to a multidimensional operations involving military personnel, police officers, legal experts, humanitarian actors, and civil society organizations working together all over the world to ensure that we have peace restored in our communities, have the opportunity to protect our civilians, as well as strengthen the rule of law. In a world increasingly threatened by multi-dimensional crises ranging from the issue of terrorism, violence extremism, communal conflict, cyber insecurity related issues, political instability, as well as humanitarian crisis, peacekeeping operation remains one of the most important instruments of strengthening the rule of law and maintaining international peace and security. As someone deeply interested in the issue of law, policing, peace and conflict studies, I believe that sustainable peace cannot be achieved mainly through military strength and by the deployment of our soldiers. And I believe strongly for us to have a world full of peace where all of us can coexist, there is a need for us to look at the issue of justice system, accountability, human security, respect for human rights, and effective institutions. Because whenever institution collapses, whenever the human security imperative are being degraded, the peace that we desire will elude all of us. Therefore, it is my proposition that for us to have a world full of peace that also has the capacity to guarantee the international peace and security that we desire, there is also a need for us to look at the multi-dimensional factors such as the issue of our justice system and the accountability of individuals who have given responsibility to protect all of us. Before I can go further, I would like to take a historical perspective into the background of peacekeeping operation under United Nations. The United Nations observed World Peacekeeping Day every 29th day of May to remember the sacrifices of these individuals and also the contributors, those contributing morally and financially to ensure that we have the capacity to deploy our peacekeeping operations in different parts of the world. So the day honors the United Nations peacekeeping mission all over the world, known as United Nations through Supervision Organization, established in 1948 in the Middle East. Since then, more than 2 million peacekeepers have served in different parts of the world and still ongoing in different components. We have some peacekeeping operation in Rwanda, Liberia, Sierra Leone. We have the one in Southern Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Mali. The issue of Lebanon is also burning in this present day. So thousands of peacekeepers have paid ultimate sacrifices with their life in the pursuit of global peace and security. And that's why one of the reasons why the United Nations want to call upon our consciousness to ensure that we increase our concern and agitation for us to have a world full of peace, and as well see how we can reduce the number of peacekeeping operations all over the world. Because whenever there is peace and security, where there is no conflict, there is no need for us to deploy in the first place. I believe that this seminar conference has a conglomeration of different individuals. Many of them may not be aware of this concept, and I want to take time for us to take a basic have a basic understanding of peacekeeping operation, so that we can actually proceed together in this paper. So what is peacekeeping in the first place? Peacekeeping refers to international effort aimed at preventing, managing and resolving conflict through the deployment of military, police and civilian personnel. The major objective of peacekeeping operation has been, as I narrated them in this manner: protection of the civilians, prevention of violence, enforcement of ceasefire agreements, promotion of human rights, strengthening democratic institutions, that is very important, support for humanitarian assistance, as well as restoration of law and order. I believe that these needs cannot be exhaustive, but this can actually form the basic foundation for us to move forward in this seminar today. So modern peacekeeping now focuses not only ending war, but also on peace building and to ensure sustainable peace and security. Because we decide that sometimes we use peace operation to enforce peace where peace cannot actually be entrenched, and such peace gotten by enforcement cannot actually be sustainable and positive in nature. And that's why I believe, as a person, for us to have a peaceful world and a world full of security, there is a need for us to have a multi-dimensional approach to the concept of peace. So peacekeeping operation drive legitimacy from different components. That's why I want to look at the legal foundation that actually gave the United Nations the power in the first place to ensure there is peace all over the world, and also the capacity to deploy peacekeepers all over the world wherever there is seem to be issue of conflict. Okay, now we will go in chapter 5, in chapter 6 of the United Nations Charter of 1946. It talks about peaceful settlement of dispute. Because under United Nations, even though there is no absolute prohibition of war, there is also some mechanism developed by the Charter to ensure that we have a peaceful and world full of peace and security. And if you come to chapter 6 of the United Nations Charter, it talks about peaceful settlement of dispute. So chapter 8 is also, chapter 7 is also talking about action related to threats to peace and act of aggression. So, but important element in peacekeeping principle, number one, is the consent of the parties, which means that the peacekeepers operate within the consent of the whole state. Because if people are coming to, if there is a deployment of peacekeeping operation and the whole state did not accept them, their consent are not being sought and obtained, it will no longer be issue of peacekeeping, because issue of peace enforcement. Then number two, have impartiality. That if you are being deployed to engage in peacekeeping operation, must actually be a neutral body, operate within the consent of the state, and ensure that you remain neutral and avoid taking side with the two conflicting parties. Then number three is no use of force except in terms of self-defense. If you are being deployed for peacekeeping operation, you are not expected to make use of your firearm until your life is under threat or the life of others for you to defend and protect them. Because peacekeeping operation is actually for peaceful purpose, to create a buffer between the two warring parties to ensure we have a world full of peace. Then we have the issue of non-violence, no use of force except in self, that I have mentioned, that protection of the human right of the people. They will have two types of human rights under peacekeeping operation. We have the human rights per se and some other rights that are fundamental. The other rights are just rights given to the people which you cannot enforce, but the other fundamental human right is the one you have the capacity to enforce them through the court of law. Then how do we ensure that if we have a peacekeeping operation, such operation must be in consonant to ensure the realization of human security imperatives? Because if there is peace and human security of that environment has not been realized, all the effort becomes a waste. So I have enumerated some certain multi-dimensional issues supposed to look at for us to ensure that we realize human security imperative while carrying out peace operation. Number one of these factors is to ensure that you remove people from fear, which we call in human security theory freedom from fear. Number two is freedom from want. The issue of hunger, issue of development, issue of poverty must also be taken care of. They are removing people from violence, issue of terrorism, human trafficking, sexual violence, displacement of the people. So these are supposed to be one of the primary purposes of peacekeeping operation, to ensure that human security component of the environment is being realized. So that if you have peace, finally, such peace will be positive and sustainable. So human security requires that peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice system that is equitable and fair, and development as well as respect for the dignity of human person. So what is your role as a peacekeeping operator or a peacekeeper under United Nations framework, or as a police officer? What are you supposed to do if you are being deployed in a peacekeeping operation? One of the responsibility of police officers, because formerly it has been more of military affairs, but to ensure the realization of human security imperative, there is integration of other sectorial factors such as the deployment of the police, humanitarian officers, civilians, legal experts, humanitarian workers, to ensure that not only to enforce peace, but for us also build peace in that environment. Number one, that you look at the issue of community policing. When the military have cleared the danger zone, they deploy police to ensure that the community is effectively policed. Protection of vulnerable groups among the society, especially children and women during the issue of conflict, is responsibility is your responsibility as a police officer to ensure that human security and the vulnerable members of this community is being protected. Number two is the investigation of crime. If there's offence have been committed, it can be referred to the police sector for them to actually investigate. You also have the role to train the local policing institutions, because you find out if it's issue of war, when the war has been exhausted, you find out that institutions of the state have been degraded as a result of the war. So it becomes the responsibility of the peacekeepers to ensure that they train the local police officers to be able to improve the institution so that they can actually be handed over the responsibility to protect that environment. So finally you also have to maintain maintenance of public order is your responsibility, countering sexual and gender-based violence, supporting the rule of law, and building institutions of that environment. So we understand there have been several challenges facing peacekeeping operations all over the world, apart from the issue of finance. Because one of the highest contributors, who contribute about 26.7% of the finance of United Nations peacekeeping operation, the United States of America, under the leadership of President Donald Trump, has actually not been effective to ensure the financing of that organization. And as a result of that lack of support, there are several issues that have been facing the peacekeeping operation all over the world. Apart from the issue of finance, which I just described about the reduction of the financing by the United States of America, there's other factors that you are going to face in the field. Number one, we have the issue of terrorism and violent extremism all over the world, especially in Africa and in sub-Saharan Africa. So if you are being deployed for a peacekeeping operation somewhere like Burkina Faso or a place like Mali, or DR Congo, where we have issue of terrorism and all that, you are going to face a difficulty, because you are no longer protecting civilians. There is also some non-state actors that are trying to ensure that your work will not be effective. So it becomes an issue for us to look at. For example, if you are being deployed as a peacekeeping operation operator in Nigeria, the issue of Boko Haram, the issue of ISWAP, they will complicate the peace operation because sometimes they carry out guerrilla warfare where they integrate with the civilian population. It becomes very difficult for you to actually enforce peace and restore peace in that environment. Some of this environment will have political instability because there are no structure you are meeting on ground that can actually maintain peace. You are responsible to begin to build those political institutions to ensure that people can actually respond. The issue of human rights violation by these non-state actors to a very large extent also affect the operation in that environment. I have spoken about the issue of funding and logistics. Then we have the issue of cyber threat and disinformation. Because of the existence of cyberspace now, many messages are going online that can actually disconnect you from the civilian population. So if you are not effective to also deploy cyber-related policing strategies, they can use propaganda to disconnect you from the environment. And if the people are not in your support, it becomes very, very difficult for you to realize your objective. Finally, I have what I call the issue of climate change, where competition over the scarce resources are increasing, thereby creating issue of communal crises. In Nigeria, we call them farmer herders conflict and all that. Because of this climate change, it becomes very difficult for you to resolve the issue that can actually entrench peace within that environment. So in Nigeria, let me bring it to Nigeria context. Nigeria has quest for peace. Nigeria has been actually playing active role in peacekeeping operation, issues of such as insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, farmer herders conflicts, communal crises, and others. But to strengthen the security imperative, there is something you must do. Improve your intelligence gathering, strengthen the justice system, promote community policing in that environment, address unemployment and poverty, enhance interfaith dialogue, because some of these conflicts may have religious connotation, as well as prioritize human security as their major imperative. Though my personal experience, in my professional experience within policing as well as legal practice, I must say that I've observed that many conflicts arise from injustice in the system, issue of poor communication, weak institution, lack of trust between the citizens as well as the state, as well as lack of education and developmental imperative within that environment. For us to be able to resolve this, I have suggested what we can do. We look at the issue of justice system to ensure that it is fair, ensure dialogue, accountability, and the respect for the dignity of human person, which means the respect of human rights. Because lack of respect to the human right, either you are carrying out peace operation and other things, to a very large extent impact negatively on the mind of the people. It becomes one of the ways in which people can actually be radicalized, and some radicalization to a very large extent will lead people to insurgency, terrorism related issues and other. In concluding, brothers and sisters, peacekeeping is not merely the responsibility of the United Nations or security agency, it is a collective effort. Peace begins with justice, tolerance, responsible leadership, and human respect for human dignity. So a leadership to a very large extent is one of the things that creates conflict in an environment. But if you have a leadership that is responsible to a very large extent, other dimensional issues I mentioned earlier that can actually entrench peace in the environment will become more prominent than those factors that manufacture conflict and social misery on the part of the people. Therefore, I conclude by saying that peace is not only the absence of conflict, but the creation of an environment where all can thrive. Let us therefore commit ourselves to building a peaceful society founded on justice, human security, and peaceful coexistence. Thank you very much. I still remain my humble self. My name is Fidelis Oguba. I'm a lawyer, peace and security consultant, presenting this paper to you on 29th day of May 2026 on International Peacekeepers Day. Thank you very much and shalom.